we're going to look at the blur tools underneath the filter menu. So to explore this, I have a picture of a butterfly. I always like to make a copy of the background layer first before I do anything. And then I may use my quick selection tool or whatever selection tool would be most advantageous in this case. I have a pretty shallow depth of field, but just say I want to make it even more blurry in the background. This is how I might do that. So I might select the butterfly. In fact, I might even select a few more elements within the photograph to keep the same. So I might grab my lasso tool from here, add to selection, and then I'm going to say, oh, I want about this area in focus. I don't want it to be a hard edge between my focus and my blurred area in the background. So I'm going to go up to select and mask, and I might feather this edge a little bit more so that it's less noticeable in my final composite. Okay, so we have the butterfly, and then it kind of fades to where my blur is going to be. So I need to copy and paste, Command C, Command V, or edit copy, edit paste, in order to get your butterfly on its own layer. So I'm going to go back to the background copy, and you can see what I have on that butterfly layer. By hiding everything else, it's going to be a nice seamless transition from out of focus to in focus on the butterfly. So the butterfly is going to be protected here. So yeah, you can see what I have. I could move that around if I wanted to. I'm going to keep it there. So selecting the background copy, I might type in blur. I'm going to use one of the blur features underneath filter. So go blur, and then you could either choose Gaussian blur, which is a really popular one, or lens blur. So both of these will do a very similar thing. Gaussian blur allows you, if you check the preview button, you can see that might be a little too much, all the way blurred to like one color, which would not look very believable. But if you want to give the illusion that it's a more shallow depth of field, something like that might work, and then you can see the difference. When you hide that layer, here's before, here's after, so it's just giving it a little bit more of a shallow depth of field look. Now, if you're trying to do some more special effects type blurs, there are some options. So I'm going to go up to the filter menu. Now, I always make a copy because filters are destructive, and what that means in Photoshop is that that will be a permanent change to that layer. I cannot take that off unless I first made this layer into a smart object. Now that means it protects it. So it's kind of like locking that layer, so you can't then like blur the or smudge the pixels or do anything like that. So now when I add a filter, you'll notice the difference. Okay, still under the blur filter gallery here. And now I'm going, notice like there's one thing I can't do because it's a smart object. I'm going to go to the, you could either do motion blur, which would make the whole image look like it's moving. So I'll kind of show you what that does really quick. That's not the one I'm going to add, but you can increase the distance and it looks like you can change the direction of the motion. So it just looks like the background is in motion and kind of moving laterally from like left to right. So that's not the one I want though. In this case, I'm going to go up to filter, and then under blur, I'm going to use the radial blur options. So now I have several options for this. I can either add a spin, so you see what that does, and I already have a lot of abstract lines in the background, so this can really give it an interesting effect. And notice it's not affecting the center too much, it's mostly affecting the edges. Maybe I want just a little bit less. Okay, so I'm going to try a spin on this one first. So there's the spin version. And then notice now that it's a smart object, it has a smart filter, I can turn that on and off. So now it's not destructive. I could drag that to the trash if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and hide this layer for now, make another copy of the background because I want to try another filter. So this time I'm not going to make it a smart object. Just to save time, I'm going to make a destructive change here. So under that radial blur again, this time I'm going to choose zoom. And notice it kind of looks like driving through snow in a snowstorm, or like going in hyperspace in Star Trek or Star Wars. can adjust the amount, and then when you click OK, it gives it more of a zooming effect, like zooming in towards the center. So if I wanted to have this effect just on the edges and I wanted to protect the center of the frame, my subject, so that I can see her, I'm going to hide this one again. Well, actually, I keep it the same. I'm going to go ahead and add a mask. So in order to protect, I have to think about what I'm going to do. In order to protect the center of my image here, I'm going to grab an elliptical marquee tool. I'm just going to make a selection of where I want it to be protected. And then if you want to change the size of that selection after you made it, you can go to Select, Transform Selection. This was in a different video. And then make it bigger or smaller, rotate it, whatever you want to do. Hit Enter when you're ready. Now, obviously, this would be a very hard edge if I didn't refine that edge a little bit. So Select and Mask. I like to always view it on Overlay so that I can see the red, so I can tell what I have. So I'm going to feather that edge again, drag that up so that it's a little bit more of a gradual effect, a gradual zooming just at the edges, and then she's protected. Okay, that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now watch what happens when I add a mask. So it's going to hide everything outside of the marching ants. Now I don't want that. I want the blur to show up on the outside. So I really want to hide what's inside the ellipse. So I'm going to go up to Select and Inverse my selection. So now I have my zoom selected, and when I hit the mask button, it's going to hide what's outside the selection, which is in this case Nikki in the middle. And there it is. So now I have a zooming effect. If I wanted to include her legs in this, I can modify this mask from here and maybe paint using the paintbrush in black as my foreground color. And wherever I paint, if I turn up my opacity a little bit, it's going to eliminate that part of the mask. So there I have like more of her legs in it. Oh, it's on soft light, that's why. There's always a reason when something's not working. 9 times out of 10, it's what layer you're on. So if it's ever not working, check your layers and then go from there. Oops. So say I like erased more than I want, I can always switch to white, and now this will add to the mask. So then I can hide this. I can even hide her face if I wanted to, make her kind of anonymous. Okay, so that's using the blur filters, the Gaussian blur, the motion blur, and the radial blur.